Your story begins here. Single again with LFA&BARBS.
Hello everyone, welcome to Single Again with LFA and BARBS. As promised during our last episode, we are not alone today. In the house today, on the hot seat, we have Timothy Moore, the Clarity Doctor. Welcome.
Welcome, Timothy. I really like your caption, the Clarity Doctor.
Thank you so much, ladies, just for having me here. So to talk about me, I'm born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. It is exactly in the middle of the United States. So for those of you who may not necessarily know U.S. geography, so there's Iowa, there's Kansas, there's Oklahoma, there's Wyoming, there's South Dakota, and Missouri. All those states, Illinois border Nebraska, and so Omaha is one of the bigger cities. It's not the capital. It's the home of Warren Buffett.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
I lived in Europe for about 8 years in the military, and then I've been in IT for about 20 plus years, software programmer. And then I started to start my own business about 6 years ago, which really came about when I was at my father's funeral, and I found myself really just crying, but I didn't understand why I was crying, because he did not grow up in my life, and I spent most of my life blaming him in his absence for all of my failures. And so as I'm looking at him in the casket and I'm wondering why I'm crying, and then I realize I'm crying because I had no one to blame anymore. Like I had to let that him go, because now I'm looking at him realizing he could never was responsible for my success. So that's when I let him go, I forgave him, and then I kept hearing God say, write the vision, make it plain, and when you read it, you will run. And so I wrote a vision statement for myself, and then the trajectory just changed on life. And then I started a business, realizing that people need vision, they need clarity. And so I started Vision Writers USA, which is the recognized global leader in the creation of vision statements that influence and facilitate community growth and economic development. And then I am called the Clarity Doctor. So I help individuals go from blaming to grooming, and from excuses to execution. There you have it.
Oh wow!
I'm going to owe you. You're going to owe me for that, because when I was talking with you, you didn't tell me that you actually initiated Vision Writers USA.
Well, there it is. I added some more clarity.
Now you have. So no, I was just saying it's quite good to get a background to you, so then we know, you're speaking from a lived experience, and also, you have the opportunity to actually deep dive into situations before you may. Because when you talk about clarity, that's why I was saying clarity in relationships are quite dicey, because everybody's relationship is an individual to them, or even the element of forgiveness, because you forgave your dad because you believed everything that was going wrong in your life is because he wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, when you came to forgive him, you have to actually, I'm taking control of my life, and from here on, it's me. So therefore, for me, what is it that I need to forgive? Where am I? What am I having to forgive? So I think it's quite good. So it's good to have you here. Good.
Yay! Welcome.
Our viewers
Thank
and our
you for joining
listeners.
us. And before we dive in, today's topic, if you're just joining us at Single Again with LFA&BARBS, please like, share, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We have a guest in the house. His name is Timothy Moore. Timothy Moore is the Clarity Doctor. and he started the Vision Writer USA. So Google him, look him up, share, like, and subscribe to him, and contact him. I'm sure he will give you some snippets on how to clarify, especially just coming out of a divorce or being widowed or being widower, whichever, wherever, whatever stage you are in your journey. And that's the purpose for Single Again. And like I was saying, our last episode, we talked about the process of forgiveness. And just FYI for people out there, we don't just bring people on the show that has not gone through what we are going through or that are not in the same boat with us. They may have gone past it, but they all went through it. Timothy has been married twice. I mean, 3 times, right, Timothy?
3 times.
Yes. He's been married 3 times. And I just want you to share your journey and your process with us. Where and when did you decide that, you know what, I have to forgive myself, forgive my partners, and keep it moving?
So, self and partners. Forgiving those two. It really started when I started my business. So for me, entrepreneurship has been a journey of self-discovery. And then really, being able to produce and give birth to a successful business or entrepreneurship journey really starts with digging inside. And so you can't really have a business of serving people if you're angry. You can't really have a successful business of building other people if you are suspicious and if you don't feel confident about yourself. So to really serve people at the highest level, you have to get over yourself. And I had to look within and find out where were those areas where I had not forgiven myself, where were those areas where I was angry, what were those areas where I was, suspicious and looking at people with a doubtful eye and untrusting. I had to go through that process. And definitely marriage was one of many areas where I experienced wounding others and wounding myself. So even with the process where I talk about taking entrepreneurs and, obviously people who are going through personal relationships, you have to go from blaming to blooming. And so really looking at where I was blaming my former spouses for how the relationship failed. And blame has no place for success. And so all those areas where I kept saying, well, if you would have did this and if you would have did that and if you were this and if you were that, and really taking accountability, sure, maybe they should have, or maybe it would have been best if, they would have done certain things. But what was my response or my reaction to them not doing a certain thing? Because after all, everybody's their own person, and I have no right to put expectations upon people. If that's not who they are or where they are, I have to accept that and be accountable to being intentional and on purpose about my dealings with other people. And so really looking back at those relationships and doing a personal deep dive into, was I being my best self? And I realized, and just kind of pull it all together, the business of creating vision, I realized that I had no vision. I had no vision for the relationship. I had no vision for where we were going as a family. It was all a vision of what they could do for me. How can being married serve me instead of how can being married serve my partner. And that
That
was
is so true. Yeah, that is so true, because most of the time we don't really get together and set the vision for us, do we? I mean, you have your vision, your partner has his or her vision, and
maybe.
Yeah, you know.
Maybe. And that's the key.
Maybe. And a maybe is a big maybe, because sometimes we don't. We just take one day today. This is what's happened today. What does he want? What do I want? And then we're just going. And until we crash. And then,
and it's so interesting
it's very good.
It's so interesting that you said that, and honestly, I was taking some notes. You started with a blame game, which fortunately and unfortunately, most of the time when you are single again, people tend to want to point a finger, like, oh, maybe he did this, he did that, not taking accountability. You mentioned that accountability, and that's very big, And you also said something about trust and distrust and suspicion, and and I think all of this, understanding all of this and processing all of this internally, it's the journey towards self-discovery. And you said something that stood out to me, and that is go from blaming to blooming.
Yes.
And yes, you said something about vision. I remember when I was married, my husband then, I'm being careful, like I told you, I don't like saying ex because it's always in my life. It's kids in my life, or our kids, So, because it just dawned on me now, we never had a vision. He would just come up and say, okay, this is the watchword for the year, especially if you're a Christian. Like, this is the watchword for the year. Okay, what plans do we have for the year?
Yeah.
Do we have any plans for summer? What will the kids do? What's our plan? How? That was not in the picture. He would just say, don't worry about that. I got it. You just can't get it. I need to know. And I don't know. I think most women need to know and be carried along. And that is very, very important that you said that. So single again folks out there, you hear that. If you're making up your mind to go into another relationship, whenever, please remember that there has to be a vision. What is my vision for this thing that I'm doing? Not even only in relationship.
Yes.
What is my vision for this thing? Why am I going in it? And what is our vision collectively? Because it has to be on the same level, right?
Yeah. And I use vision as a way to filter out my options. I have to and so I have to have a very strong vision to not allow the physical attractiveness of another person to pull me away from the vision that I have. It has to be a strong vision, because he or she might be fine, sexy, money, powerful, all the physical trappings. But if that individual does not have their own vision that is in alignment with mine, I'm going to have my whole life derailed. It's going to be derailed. And so I have to know my vision, not just for my relationship, but my vision is outside of my relationship. Like, what is the outcome? What is my place in the world? What am I building? What do I want to achieve? How do I see myself? What is my identity? I need to know all that so that when I pick a partner, I can say, oh, that's not it. Because they're not in alignment.
Yes.
So that's what that single again is about. You gotta discover yourself.
Yeah.
And know who you are.
yourself.
So the vision alignment is important, because the relationship might not even go ahead if where you're going right, they're going left. I mean, you might follow the physical attraction and think, oh, we'll work it out. And that's the mistake a lot of us make. So,
and that was why we ended up where we were the first time.
You can say I have my vision, but as Timothy said, if it's not strong enough, you don't put it in front of you, you will easily be swayed by what you see. And, at the back of it, the subconscious will remind you, oh, I thought you were going to do that. Oh, we can pick that up later. We will. I'm sure if he loves me enough, we can work it out and we will do that. You must know who you are and not make him responsible for you to achieve your vision. And I think sometimes we have walked over that in many relationships. We have been pulled to the attraction of physical stuff.
Yeah.
And what the eye see, that I must eat. And sometimes you have to also remember, 30 seconds on the lips, as a woman would say, 40 years on my head. So I think it is. So
I like that.
We must actually be, set our pace according to what we want. And especially when you're single again. So because when we are not we're single the first time, we get to a certain age, and then you start worrying about your clock is ticking and all of that. So sometimes you overlook your vision just to please society. But if you've gone in, it didn't work, you've come back, you're starting again. It's very important that you actually know who you are, where do you want to go. If you have a partner, which part is it going to fit in your vision? And can you actually agree that you're supporting each other? Because your visions are not exactly going to be the same, but are you supporting each other? So hopefully, it's good. It's good for the more clarity we have. It's wonderful.
Honestly, that is very clarifying, and thank you for that. Now, before we pack up on this episode, let's briefly talk about your 3 marriages. How did you go from 1 to 3? And are you still married or you are single again?
Single again, not married.
Okay.
So the first one was a high school fling, sweetheart. Just again, physical attraction, no vision. And then there was history there, and so it was, oh, okay, sure, why not? Why not? Okay, the sex is great. We get along. We love to party. So let's spend the rest of our lives doing that, and we'll have fun and we'll figure it out. We'll work, and no vision. So that lasted about 9 months.
Oh, 9 months.
9 months. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was without going too deep, but there was some infidelity. Lots of infidelity. There was, mistrust. There was abuse. It was crazy. So then that ended, and then about maybe a year later, I was remarried again.
Oh, wow.
And I was remarried again, thinking that this new marriage, because at that point I had become a believer.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, now I'm a believer. We'll get this church lady. Boom, it'll just work because now we're both believers. So we'll just jump right in.
Sorry, I made that mistake. So that's why I'm laughing. Sorry.
Yeah. Again, partial vision in that, we're both believers. We're going to serve the Lord together. We'll go to church. Again, partial vision. But then there were other pieces that weren't in alignment because we didn't have our own individual strong visions that we knew what we wanted for ourselves. So we only had one aspect. Out of that, 3 children were born. And that took place in Germany. So then we got a divorce, came back to the U.S.
How many years did that last?
That lasted about 5 years.
Got 3 children in that 5 years.
3 children. A set of twins.
Oh, wow. Oh,
wow. Yep. So 5 years. And then that ended, came back to the US, and then about 7 years later,
Okay.
I was married again. Again, no vision, physically attractive, both in church. Sure, why not? We're living in sin. We can't live this way.
Get married.
Of course, let's get married. Now, to be honest, with all three, in my heart, I knew it wasn't the best choice.
Okay.
Like, I knew it.
I like that.
I
but
knew
why
it.
did you go on?
Again, not having vision, not having really the ability to say what I felt and stand on it, because I was caught up in the emotions and the attraction, what we were doing. It felt good. It was amazing. We'll figure it out. So that lasted 12 years. One child out of that.
Okay.
But again, it wasn't a happy 12 years. It was just 12 years on paper. And as they say, often you actually get divorced twice. You get divorced when the marriage is over, and then you get divorced when the paperwork is signed.
Fine.
So let's not assume, 12 years. No.
Yeah.
That's on paper. So that's how I got into those, marriages. So now I'm currently dating. I'm taking my time. This time I have vision. So now I'm intentional about what I'm building, what I'm creating, making sure that there's alignment, making sure that there's cohesion, that we both, how can two walk together except they be agreed? So I have that on my side now to make the proper decision on how to proceed and, all those different things like that.
That's wonderful.
Really interesting. Yeah. That's really, really wonderful and interesting. And thank you so much for sharing this. And I do hope you understand that I didn't just throw you under the bus. I love throwing people under the bus. That's my pastime.
I think that's your mantra.
No, that's good. I'm transparent. It is what it is.
Yeah, because I want people listening out there to know that we've all been there. We're all going through it. Our journey, we're on the same path, but our exit is different. And the way we came onto that highway is different. And that's what I always say on this show. And again, I remember you said that you have to get to a place of forgiving yourself because of your business.
Yes.
When did you realize that I have to forgive myself and forgive my partners? And like you said, be very, very accountable and not owing anybody responsible.
Well, unforgiveness keeps you tied to the past.
Yep.
And so I knew I was tied to the past when I would always try to look forward to my vision, but then I always kept looking behind me at what I did in the past, or what I felt in the past, or what I believed in the past. And so I had to unchain myself, untether myself in order to even expect something more from myself without the weight of guilt and shame and all those different things. So I couldn't continue to entertain that. So I had to forgive. I had to move on. I had to let go and say, hey, it is what it is. It happened. I take accountability. But if this thing is over, let me create something new. Let me look forward to what can be. Constantly rehearsing yesterday and talking about the past, reliving the past, continuing to discuss the past, keeps my feelings and my emotions in that state. as if it's still happening. I don't want to live there. And I have a right to be happy, and I have a right to live my best life. So, and I can't let those of my past continue to hold me to it because they haven't possibly moved completely on.
Oh, yes. We're dragging you with us. Yeah. So, Timothy, did you do all of this by yourself, or did you get some professional help? As in, having some therapy to unpick all of this?
I can't say I did it by myself, but I haven't gone to professional therapy. Lots of prayer, lots of meditation, lots of book reading, self-discovery, digging deep. I mean, I did the work, I continue to do the work.
That's good. Because we just want, listeners to know there are alternatives out there.
Yes.
And, if you do want to help, yes, everybody might say therapy is expensive. So you speak into the fact that actually you pick a book and now you go online. There's so many things that you can read. Just authenticate the website. And actually you can help to self-actualize. And I think it's very important.
Okay, I think this is where we will draw the curtain for this episode, and I think this is very important. I know listener may feel like, okay, it's supposed to be co-parenting. Yes, it is co-parenting, but I want you guys to know and meet our guest. Even though you're not seeing him, but you're hearing him, I want you to meet him. And I remembered before he came on the show, he asked me, he said, how many male guests have you had? I said we've only had one, and he's going to be the second. So he's our second male guest. And honestly, thank you so much, Timothy, for coming. We will be coming on this episode. We talked about, having a vision, spelling it out, forgiving yourself, moving on. Because if all of those things are not in place, I don't see any way an individual can co-parent or both individuals can co-parent reasonably.
Right.
So until we come back, this is under the umbrella of co-parenting. We're still coming back to talk about co-parenting. From Timothy.
Final words. Write the vision, make it plain, so when you read it, you can run.
Awesome. Bab.
If you know your vision, make it strong. Okay? Yeah. Don't get other people's input into your vision unless they are people who are going to enhance what it is that you want to look at. You might have an idea, but you haven't got it all together.
Definitely.
So seek help from the right people to define the vision, but not the person who will pull it apart. And so if you now believe in yourself, then your journey becomes easier because you have the steps that you know is ahead of you.
Awesome. In that line, I am also going to say, run with your vision, go it may tarry, but be persistent with it, and go from blaming to blooming. Until we see you in the next episode, sit tight.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Your story begins here. Single again with LFA and BARBS.